Hi everyone, I'm Sanjeev, the India operations and marketing lead at StitchFlow. But then today I am not here to talk about that. So I'm here to talk about MicroSaaS. I'm here to talk about building MicroSaaS products. So long story short, I've talked about the origin stories of Super Meme a lot. So long story short, I run a MicroSaaS. It's an AI meme generator called supermeme.ai. And it so far generated about $100,000 in revenue lifetime. So that is something that I have. Also, I run my own SaaS, which is not generated any revenue, and I've learned how to code recently, and I've built that myself recently. So that has not generated any revenue. So if you're thinking, okay, maybe Sanjeev can only make revenue when you have co-founders, that's also not true because I have one more product that doesn't generate any revenue, and there are co-founders. So the story, the point is not that. The point is not okay, how do you working with co-founders, or it's not that. The point is there is an opportunity in MicroSaaS. There is an opportunity to make money in MicroSaaS. So what is that opportunity? And before that, what is even MicroSaaS, right? But before I tell you that, I think it's important to understand why is this a big deal? Why is MicroSaaS a big deal, and why are we here on a Saturday listening to me talk about MicroSaaS? I will look at Sam Altman, and this one quote that he said has stayed with me for a very long time, which is, he didn't say it a long time ago, he said it 6 months ago, but still, we are not far from a one-person billion-dollar company, and that is huge because we believe so many things about building software, right? We believe that software is huge, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but the fact that one person can run a billion-dollar company is just, it's such a crazy thought to believe, but it's a thought that I want to believe because at some point I want to be that one-person billion-dollar company. And I believe that the MicroSaaS opportunity, there is an opportunity for not just developers, for anyone who wants to be that one-person billion-dollar company. I think building MicroSaaS is a great way to get there. I think it's a very, I've kind of seen it up front that 3 people who've never met each other are running Super Meme on a WhatsApp group, are able to generate $100,000 without a team, without a funding, without spending any money on marketing. I think I want to believe that there is an opportunity for one person to generate $1 billion in revenue. Yeah, maybe some of you in the audience are thinking like this, right? Okay, what crazy thought is this? One person, building $1 billion company and this MicroSaaS and all that is. So my job for the next 20-25 minutes is to convince you that, hey, this is a possibility. Maybe we'll not get to $1 billion. Maybe we'll fall short of a few dollars, but still a great place to be. So my job is to convince you that this is possible. So to get to that, we really need to understand what MicroSaaS is. But before that, before I tell you that, let's talk about the agenda for today, right? What are we going to talk about? What is the structure? So 3 things. 3 things we'll talk about today, which is we have to unlearn a lot of software myths that we believe in. And as developers, what is stopping us from pursuing or building MicroSaaS? And more tactically, what can you do next? What are some of the things that you can take away and you do next? So the first part, what are some myths that we believe in? So we'll just look at this one by one. Some of it might resonate, some of it might not, but then this is kind of based on my experience. So what we believe in is you need a large team to build software. It is not always true, right? Again, case in point, Super Meme is being built with 3 co-founders. I am not a very useful developer, which means that it's literally just 2 people who built the entire app, and it is generating $100,000 in revenue. But Super Meme is just one example. There are so many examples on Twitter of solo developers who are making hundreds of dollars in monthly revenue. hundreds of dollars in monthly revenue, so hundreds of thousands of dollars in monthly revenue, which means 200K revenue per month, 100K revenue per month. So you don't need a large team to build software. So if you've believed in that, it's time to unlearn that. You need time. Even for an MVP, right? You need weeks or months to build an MVP. Not true. With Cursor, with AI-enabled coding, and with just your mindset. For example, MVP is not just about how you're coding it, it's also about what you're building. So if you pick the right things to build, it cannot take weeks or months. So it's something that is not true. Again, you have to spend money on marketing. So that's one thing that we believe in. If you're running a software business, you have to spend money on marketing. That's how you get audience. But not true. SuperMeme does not have any spend. Till date, we have spent $0 on marketing. We get about 1,000 to 1,500 signups a day. At our peak, we were getting 3,000 signups a day. It is possible, again, there are so many other examples, I didn't want to include that, but there are so many other examples where organically you can get marketing if you build the right product. So you don't need to spend money on marketing. Yeah, this is another trap that we fall into. Like, okay, I can't just go build software. I have to research. I have to look at Gartner. I have to look at some report. I have to talk to customers. I have to get their idea. I have to do research. I need to have an Excel sheet. I need to have pivot tables. Only then I can build software. Again, not true. If you have the right instinct, if you have the right product mindset, if you understand the problem really well enough, you don't need to do all this before building software. Again, an AI meme generator shouldn't exist. Forget making $100,000 in revenue. It shouldn't exist because no one really asked for that product. There is no market research for that product. It doesn't have to exist, but then it exists. Not just exists, it's like thriving with making $5,000 a month, with which pays us some money. So you don't need to have a lot of research before you build a product. And yeah, building a software product is not as hard as people make it seem. If you've been following all the hustle posts on LinkedIn, most of them are AI generated. But anyways, if you've been following them, they only tell you that because that's what they want you to hear. But the truth is, you don't need to be constantly working if you're building software product. It is possible to build a sustainable, profitable software business without constantly working. For example, there were times where all three of us, one of us at one point were not working on SuperMeme at all. It would still continue to generate revenue. The best part about MicroSaaS for me is that once you get it to generate revenue, you don't have to work. It will still do that for you. So it's almost like an asset that keeps giving you revenue without you having to work. So this is, again, not true. And yeah, you don't have to be in constant communication if you're building software, which is against what a lot of us believe, because all of us spend half a day in stand-up calls and in meetings and in scrum calls. There are calls after which we'll do another call just to rant about the previous call. So we do all that. So you don't have to be in constant communication. Again, example from SuperMeme, we run this on a WhatsApp group. We don't have Jira. We don't have Linear. We don't even have a Google Sheet where we planned work. We just have that sort of communication where it's totally asynchronous. We don't even get on Zoom calls. We used to, but now we don't. So you don't need to be in constant communication at all if you are trying to build software. And again, you don't need money to build SaaS. All we paid for at the initial level was just the domain, which is $10. After that, it just paid for itself. So you don't need a lot of money to build SaaS. So my point being, whatever that you believed about building software is not true. And I'm saying there is a better way to build software, which is the MicroSaaS way. So what is MicroSaaS? So what is MicroSaaS? But before that, no, actually I'm kidding. Let's just get into the definition, right? Definition that I came up with. So MicroSaaS to me is a SaaS product. See, straightforward. It's a software as a service product. Solves a micro problem, which is basically a specific niche subset of existing problems. SuperMeme will never be a SaaS. It doesn't have to be. Because it solves one problem, it solves it well. So it is a micro problem for a small target audience who are underserved. In our case, they are meme marketers who are using memes in their personal branding or in their company marketing. Image Flip is not going to solve for that. Buffer or Hootsuite is not going to solve for that. We will. because we operate in this MicroSaaS mindset and we can solve for that small audience. And it's usually a small team, 1 to 3 members, equal stakeholders, so everyone is equally invested in the problem, in the product. And you operate with micro budget, which basically means just domain name. You don't have to pay for anything else. Maybe initially few credits from AI tools, but then apart from this, not much. And micro growth. This is important because when you bootstrap, when you build your own MicroSaaS, there is no revenue goal, right? It is whatever that you make. So there is no pressure. Like for example, $5,000 per month is not, like I make it sound like a big deal, right? But if you talk to any SaaS company, it's pocket change. Like no one really cares about it. But for 3 people who are building this out of a WhatsApp group, $5,000 divided by 3 is a huge amount. So that's the difference here. When you're building a MicroSaaS, you don't have to chase big revenue. You can be very happy with small revenue and just be happy with that growth. So now that we understand what MicroSaaS is, what is stopping people, especially developers, from building MicroSaaS? Again, this is a list based on my experience of interacting with developers on what is stopping them. And the reason I have this today is if you're thinking this way, stop. Like, don't think this way. For example, one thing that I commonly hear, like, bro, no one will ever pay for this product. We don't know that. Like, just because something sounds simple to you doesn't mean it is a useless product. So a lot of times, a lot of product ideas will come to us, and then we are like, oh, you know what, no one will pay for it. Only 6 months later to find out that it's a successful product that someone has monetized and they're getting paid. So this is a blocker that you have to unblock. That, like, there are ways to test this, but just don't assume that just because a product idea sounds simple that people won't pay for it. Yeah, this is a problem that I see with a lot of developers, right? There are minor things that should just be ignored, but then it will take a lot of time to just, okay, you know what, I need to polish this till the last moment. With this mindset, it's really hard to build MicroSaaS because you have limited resources, you just cannot do everything. Which brings me to the next point. You cannot build everything. One more thing that I face, especially while working with a lot of my developers, and even sometimes for myself, right? You don't have to build everything. Like, it might look incomplete, but don't let that stop you from launching, because you will forever be in build mode if you don't have that constraint for yourself. And one more thing they say is, okay, I cannot market. Like, that is not what I do, but I would challenge that, because there are ways to market without marketing. Like, the way that you think marketing is, there are other ways to do it. But this, again, is something that stops developers. Yeah, so usually people get uncomfortable with MicroSaaS because it looks so small. Like, we're solving for one niche problem, one niche use case. That is not something a lot of people are comfortable building, because we are not used to being in those kind of companies, right? We are, like, the companies that we work with, the softwares that we work with are huge. They're full platforms with multiple integration, with admin settings, with role-based access and all that. So usually when we have to build a small product, it looks like a feature within a big product and not a product by itself. That is a blocker that we have to unlock. So now that we know, okay, these are some of the common software myths that we believed in, and then we promised to unlearn that, and we understand that developers have to change the way that they're thinking about building software, and they have to unblock that in their mindset. Very tactically, the people here, what can you do to get started in this MicroSaaS journey? So that's what we're going to talk about. The first step is to simply validate it, and this is a very easily thrown around term, like validation. Like, you have to validate your idea. But what does it really mean? What we're trying to do here is, you have a bunch of ideas, you're trying to figure out what is that idea that I should work on. And you understand that you're probably trying to work on this by yourself or with a couple of team members. So some of the things that we did when we wanted to work on Supermeme, there are ways to get direct validation. Like, one of the things that I did is I just got on calls with 10 marketing friends and asked them, hey, how are you creating memes right now if you're using memes? And it gave me enough answers. But if you don't want to talk to people, there are other ways to validate your ideas. Like, you can go on keyword research tools, just search for your ideas and see if there is enough volume. That's usually an indication. See, again, at this point, you're not doing research. You are simply trying to see if your idea is worth building. Because you don't want to build products that no one is looking for. You don't want to build products that no one is going to pay for. So there is a need to validate, but it doesn't have to take months. It doesn't have to take weeks. It can literally take just a few minutes. So this also happens, right? After you validate, then what do you build? The problem with MVP is that it is usually scoped based on the work that we have to do as developers, but that's not the right way to scope it. The way to scope MVP is that you have to get to a product, the smallest possible unit of a product that people will pay for. That is the way to think about MVP. And there are ways to get to that MVP without even coding. And that was actually the source for SuperMeme. The first version of SuperMeme was built on a no-code tool, which actually led me to connect with Ramshree in 2021, where he pinged and said that, okay, he was working on an AI meme generator. I was working on a no-code meme tool. We connected. So an MVP doesn't have to be a full-blown product. It can even be a landing page with just a payment link. It can be a landing page with just collecting emails. So MVP is the second step. Once you have an MVP, you are trying to get that into an actual product. What happens is you have multiple paths after you get there. So one thing that you can do, the easy thing that you can do is see if you can partner with a non-tech co-founder, and then you can just work on this together so that it's not something that you have to do. But then there are other ways to do it yourself. Like you can learn distribution strategies, you can hire consultants who can help you with it. There are multiple options. But my point is, it's possible. You don't have to worry about the distribution and building part. It's possible without you actually learning and how to do it. So it's not a blocker for you to build software, build MicroSaaS specifically. Now, after you have a product where you validated your idea, you have an MVP that people are paying for, and then you have that initial growth, you have to figure out how do you turn this product into a business, because they're two separate things. Like having a product and having a business is two separate things. A business needs like input, business needs leads, business needs a marketing channel so that you have a constant flow of people coming in. You know exactly how much you're making every month. You know exactly how much your margins are. So you're making a profit. So at this stage, that's what you're trying to do. You're making a profit. So here, the growth stage, all you're trying to do is, you know you have a product that works. How do you then get people to that product? Which is where social media and then launch directories and paid, like there is a bunch of different things that you can do. But my point here again, to use SuperMeme example is, we did all this, like marketing was just me, right? We didn't even have a team. We didn't hire consultants. So marketing was just me. And all we did were like these things. We did social media, we did launch directories, we did product and launch, which really helped us. But what actually helped us was the fact that we built a cool product. So it still starts there. AI meme generator had the natural virality built in. So people kept tagging us and we were getting listed on lists and stuff like that. So that really helped. The final step, after, let's say, once you have a profitable MicroSaaS, the best part again about MicroSaaS is it's an asset, right? Which means you can easily kind of sell it and then make a profit from it. And you'll see a lot of people on acquire.com and there are a bunch of places where they build MicroSaaS products, get it to a certain stage, and then they just sell it. And a lot of people sell their MicroSaaS software for 6 figures. USD, so $100,000, $200,000. So this is happening, and if you spend a lot of time on Twitter, you will keep hearing a lot of this. But it's happening, and it's possible. So this is kind of a framework in which you can think about just building your MicroSaaS. So this is kind of what we spoke about, right? The first step is unlearning a lot of software myths that you believed in. The second step is there are some internal blockers, especially as builders, especially as developers. There are some internal blockers and blind spots that we have to remove. And the third step is the 5-step framework, which we just spoke about. And you just have to go through, at least start somewhere, but then there is a way for you to get started. So, okay. So, I want to leave you with this. The intention of this slide is to be a motivation that we are not far from a $1 billion like $1 billion company. And this is again, like I'm leaving this slide here to motivate, but I think like we're in Chennai and there are like, there are better people to help us motivate. So that's what I have here.
மலைகளை முட்டும் வரை முட்டு லட்சியம் எட்டும் வரை எட்டு படையெடு படையப்பா வெட்டிக் கொடி கட்டு மலைகளை முட்டும் வரை முட்டு லட்சியம் எட்டும் வரை எட்டு படையெடு படையப்பா கை தட்டும் மொழிபட்டு நீ விடும் நெற்றி துளிபட்டு பாறைகள் எட்டை பிளவுற்று உடைகடு படையப்பா கை தட்டும் மொழிபட்டு நீ விடும் நெற்றி துளிபட்டு பாறைகள் எட்டை பிளவுற்று உடைகடு படையப்பா வெட்டு கிளி அல்ல நீ ஒரு வெட்டும் புலி என்று பகைவர வெட்டின் தலை கொண்டு நடையிட படையப்பா வெட்டு கிளி அல்ல நீ ஒரு வெட்டும் புலி என்று பகைவர வெட்டின் தலை கொண்டு நடையிட படையப்பா மிக்க துணை உண்டு இளைஞர்கள் பக்க துணை உண்டு உடன்வர மக்கட் படையுண்டு முடிவெடு படையப்பா வெற்றி கொடி கட்டு மலைகளை முட்டும் வரை முட்டு லட்சியம் எட்டும் வரை எட்டு படையெடு படையப்பா ஆயிரம் தடைக்கல்லப்பா தடைக்கல்லும் உனக்கொரு படிக்கல்லப்பா வாழ்க்கையில் ஆயிரம் தடைக்கல்லப்பா தடைக்கல்லும் உனக்கொரு படிக்கல்லப்பா
All right. So hope you are all, thanks to Talaivar, hope you're all super motivated. I'll be hanging out around here. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Sanjeev NC. So happy to answer any questions. I don't know if we have time for questions now. We don't have time for questions. So yeah, find me outside. Thank you so much. You've been a great audience. Thank you.